Amid the bustling streets of San Francisco, as the sunset faded into the horizon and the night cloaked the city in a shimmering veil of lights, life continued its unending rhythm. Streetlights flickered in shades of amber and orange, car horns blared incessantly, mingling with laughter echoing from corner cafes. Streams of people hurried past, their steps chasing the pulse of the city. Together, they formed an endless symphony of a city that never sleeps. Yet amidst this vibrant rhythm stood a man seemingly forgotten, lingering on the fringes of life's flow. Bernie, his figure worn and weary, sat quietly on the cold sidewalk, as though he had become part of the city's hidden corners. His frayed green jacket wrapped around him like a loyal companion, aged and worn, as if it had weathered every storm in his life alongside him. His boots were scuffed, the soles nearly gone, and in front of him lay a small, battered cardboard sign with the faint, uneven scrawl, "Homeless Veteran. Anything helps." Some passers-by spared a brief glance, others walked by without even noticing. Bernie remained where he was, seemingly accustomed to the silence and invisibility among the crowd. But for anyone who stopped long enough to really look, there was something about his gaze, a quietness that carried untold stories, pain unspoken, yet deeply felt. Unlike others in similar situations, Bernie did not beg or plead. He sat there with a calmness that was both unexpected and poignant for someone in his plight. Not far away, at the end of a bustling street, Elon Musk, renowned entrepreneur and visionary, was leaving a conference. Dressed simply in a black blazer and jeans, his face partially obscured by a plain baseball cap, he walked at an unhurried pace. Tonight, he wasn't the symbol of innovation or the man shaping the future. He was just an ordinary person, taking a rare moment to unwind amidst a packed schedule. As Elon's eyes landed on Bernie's gaunt figure, he paused. At first, it might have been nothing more than a fleeting thought, but something compelled him to stop. In the dim glow of the streetlights, the image of this man with his small sign struck a chord, a quiet reminder that, even in a city so grand, stories of struggle and resilience were ever present. Uncharacteristically, Elon decided to do something unusual. He stopped. He approached Bernie, his footsteps light but his gaze filled with curiosity. Perhaps Elon himself didn't fully understand why he was drawn in. Yet, in that moment, he realized that sometimes the grandest stories don't begin with billion-dollar ventures or groundbreaking ideas. They start with the smallest details, like a man sitting silently on a sidewalk, waiting for someone to listen. Elon slowly sat down beside Bernie, a surprising gesture that caught the homeless man off guard. "Do you mind?" Elon asked, his voice gentle but serious. Bernie tilted his head slightly, looking at the simply but neatly dressed man in front of him. He gave a slight shrug, his weary eyes showing little interest. "It's a public sidewalk. Who am I to say no?" Elon smiled. "My name's Elon. And you?" "Bernie," the man replied, his voice hoarse. They began to talk, starting with simple, polite questions. Before long, Elon gently steered the conversation in a deeper direction. "How long have you been out here?" he asked, his tone genuine, free of judgment. Bernie leaned back against the wall, his eyes staring into the distance. "Years now. I've lost count. At first, it was weeks, then months, and now years." He paused briefly before adding, "But who keeps track? Out here, every day feels the same." Elon listened intently, never interrupting. Bernie continued, as though he'd found someone patient enough to hear all the things he had long buried. "I used to be a Marine," Bernie began. 20 years in the Corps, I've been through it all. Afghanistan, Iraq, places you don't even want to think about. When I got out, I thought I could start over. But it wasn't that simple." He stopped, his eyes shadowed with pain. "I carried wounds you can't see, PTSD." Elon nodded, his brows furrowed in empathy. "I've heard about PTSD, but I've never fully understood it. Could you tell me more?" Bernie looked at Elon for a long moment, as though weighing the sincerity of his question. Finally, he sighed. "PTSD isn't like a wound you can bandage and forget. It's a shadow, always following you. Gunfire, explosions, faces you'd rather never see again. They all replay in your head. I try to sleep, but every time I close my eyes, I'm back in combat." Bernie paused, his hands trembling slightly. "It wears you down. It pushes away your family, your friends. I tried seeking help, but no one really understood, not even my wife." Elon stayed silent, sensing this was not the time to interject, but to listen. Janet, my wife, she held on as long as she could, Bernie continued. But after years of trying, she couldn't take it anymore. When I couldn't find work and the bills piled up, she left, taking our 2 kids. I don't blame her. It's hard living with someone trapped in the past, someone who's not himself anymore. Bernie's voice grew quieter. When I lost them, I felt like I had nothing left to live for. Elon could feel the weight of Bernie's suffering, but he also noticed something. Bernie was still here, still fighting, even if only to survive. But you're still here, Elon said softly. That means you haven't given up. Bernie let out a bitter laugh. You call sitting here with this sign not giving up? I'm just getting by, nothing more. Elon sat quietly for a moment, his gaze landing on the worn cardboard sign in front of Bernie. If you could start over, what would you do? He asked, his tone calm yet purposeful. Bernie hesitated, but then he answered, I used to be good with repairs. Cars, motorcycles, farm equipment, I could fix just about anything. If I had a little shop, I think I could make it work. But that's just a dream. Out here, just getting enough to eat is hard enough, let alone starting a shop. Elon looked at Bernie for a long moment before he spoke. I can help you. Bernie squinted at Elon, disbelief flickering in his eyes. Help me. Why would you do that? Elon smiled. Because I can. And because someone should. That very evening, Elon arranged for Bernie to move into a nearby veteran support center. The facility provided a clean, warm space and regular meals. For Bernie, it felt like a miracle. After years on the streets, having a place to call home, even temporarily, was something he never thought he'd experience again. But this was only the beginning. Elon didn't stop there. In the weeks that followed, he helped Bernie search for a small space to open a repair shop. Elon paid the first 6 months of rent and funded the tools and equipment Bernie needed to get started. One day, Bernie walked into the new shop, a modest but well-lit space with large windows that let in ample sunlight. He stood silently for a moment, taking it all in, his emotions almost overwhelming him.